When a car is built for the final time, two things always happen. The factory ships the most refined version they have ever made, with the flaws already sorted. Then the market forgets it almost instantly once the brand is retired. These 8 cars are the cheapest they will ever be, yet tough enough to outlast the shiny stuff people finance today. Number 1 is near luxury. They swapped for something worse. Number 8. Mitsubishi Galant.
Let me kick this off with a sedan that reviewers shrugged at when it was new, and that buyers basically ignored on the showroom floor. The Galant ended after 2012, and when it died, Mitsubishi walked away from the mid-size sedan game entirely and never built another one. That is the first clue we want, because a final year car is usually the most sorted version of the whole run. By 2012, the thirsty V6 was already retired, dropped after 2010. So the last Galants came only as the simple 2.4-liter 4-cylinder, bolted to a stout 4-speed automatic. No turbo to overheat, no CVT to grenade. Just an old-school combo that keeps running long after fancier cars are parked. I had a customer drive one well past 200,000 miles on nothing but fluids, brakes, and tires. And he only sold it because he wanted a truck, not because the Galant ever quit. There is simply very little on this car to break, and that is the entire appeal. The reason the market ignores it is plain. The styling looked dated, even when it was brand new. The badge carries zero bragging rights, and it always lived in the long shadow of the Camry and the Accord. People assumed boring meant bad, and they were badly mistaken because boring is exactly what survives. On price, this is the cheapest door we open all day, with clean drivers landing around $3,000 to $6,000. When it rolled out, the sticker sat near $22,000 to $28,000. So the value drop already happened on someone else's wallet. Put it beside a same money Camry or Accord, and the Mitsubishi usually shows fewer miles for the same cash, because nobody is fighting you for it at the auction. For the inspection, get it fully warm, and feel the 4-speed shift, because a rough or slipping change is a warning you price into the deal. Then click through the power windows, the locks, and the dash lights, because tired electrical bits are the common gremlin on these older Mitsubishis. Drive it over a rough patch and listen for front-end clunks, since worn struts and links are cheap and they give you leverage. Finally, ask for service records, because a cheap car with a clean paper trail is the one that goes the distance without surprises. Pick this Galant when you want the most affordable, dependable midsize on the whole list, and you do not care one bit that nobody else even remembers it exists. As quiet and humble as this one is, the next pick comes from an entire band that packed up and left the country, which is exactly why it has become such a steal.
Number 7. Suzuki Grand Vitara. Picture an entire car brand packing its bags and leaving the country, and you start to understand why this little SUV sits forgotten on lots today. Suzuki filed for bankruptcy and stopped selling cars in America after 2013. So the Grand Vitara did not just get canceled, it died right alongside the whole brand here. That history scares people off, and their fear is your opening. Here is what makes the timing perfect. Because the 2013 got a freshened front end, standard Bluetooth, and the most polished version of a body that had been refined since 2006. Under it sits a simple 2.4-liter 4-cylinder that runs a timing chain, not a belt. So you are not staring down an expensive belt job every 100,000 miles. The part that truly matters is the drivetrain, because this is a real 4-wheel drive system with low-range gearing and a proper transfer case, not some soft all-wheel drive setup that overheats and quits in the mud. That hardware is rare and tough, the kind of setup that crawls a snowy driveway or a rocky trail and just keeps going when crossovers are spinning their tires. One of my regulars tows a small trailer with hers and swears it has never once let her down through 3 hard winters. Owners routinely report these past 200,000 miles with nothing but basic care. The market ignores it because the brand vanished. Folks assume the parts are impossible to find. And on paper, the magazine said a RAV4 or a CR-V was quicker and smoother. On price, these are a gift, landing around $5,000 to $9,000 for a clean one. When new, the window sticker ran about $20,000 to $28,000. Compare it to the same money RAV4, and that Toyota simply cannot follow this Suzuki off the pavement because it does not have the low-range hardware bolted underneath. For the checks, start with the cooling system and look hard for any overheating history, because a cooked engine is the one real way these honest trucks actually die. Shift it into four-wheel drive and listen for clean engagement with no grinding or binding from the transfer case. Check that the air conditioning blows cold and the condenser fan spins, because a lazy fan is a known weak spot worth a discount. Then crawl underneath and scan for rust at the frame and the suspension points, because rot is the real enemy on anything this age. Grab this Grand Vitara when you want a genuine low-range off-roader that shrugs off snow and dirt, all for the money people waste on a soft little crossover. If this kind of honest digging helps you before you buy, take a second and subscribe. We chase down the forgotten, reliable cars the big lots would rather you walk right past. Number 6. Ford Ranger. Some trucks earn their respect by simply refusing to die, and this one ran almost unchanged for nearly 30 years before Ford finally pulled the plug. The last classic Ranger rolled off the line in December of 2011, and that body style, the small, honest pickup, basically disappeared from showrooms overnight. When the Ranger name came back in 2019, it returned as a bigger, pricier, far more complicated mid-sized truck that has almost nothing to do with the simple workhorse we are talking about here. That is exactly why the 2011 matters, because after nearly 3 decades on one platform, every weak spot had been found and fixed, and that final year scores high on reliability with very few complaints. The smart engine choice is the 4-liter Cologne V6, a motor with roots going back decades that has proven itself well past 200,000 miles, so you skip the lighter-duty 4-cylinder and grab the bigger proven 6. You can find it with a manual or an automatic, 2 or 4-wheel drive, and every version is honest and easy to wrench on. Everything about this truck is basic in the best way: a sturdy frame, a plain cabin, and parts that any corner shop already knows by heart. I still see these working as fleet and farm trucks, beaten half to death, and they keep starting every cold morning. The market overlooks it because it looks ancient and stripped down. The full-size truck stole all the attention, and the shiny new Ranger confused people who think the name means the same thing. It absolutely does not. On price, clean examples run around $6,000 to $12,000, depending on the miles and whether it has 4-wheel drive. When new, these stickered about $18,000 to $28,000. Compare it to any new mid-sized truck on the lot, and you are staring at 3 times the money for something with a payment book attached for 6 years. For the inspection, the first job is to get underneath and hunt for frame rust, because in the salt states, rot is what truly ends these trucks before the engine ever does. On the 4-liter, ask about spark plug history in the earlier years, because some had a plug blowout trouble that was addressed in later production. Feel the steering and the front end over bumps, because worn ball joints and bushings are common, and they are an easy bargain chip. Then check the bed and cab mounts for rot too, because surface rust is fine, but flaky structure is not. Choose this Ranger when you want a small, simple, fixable truck that hauls and tows and outlives the chrome on everything around it. The next one is a car that earned a terrible reputation it mostly did not deserve, and the final year is exactly where that whole story flips. Number 5. Honda Accord. Few cars carry a reputation worse than they actually deserve, and the 7th generation Accord is the poster child for that exact problem. This generation closed out in 2007, and then the 8th generation arrived for 2008, bigger and softer. Here is the story the bargain hunters keep missing, because when this Accord launched in 2003, its new 5-speed automatic, especially behind the V6, started failing early, sometimes before 100,000 miles. It got so bad that Honda extended the warranty and revised the transmission, even adding a cooler line to keep the gears from cooking themselves. But here is the key that changes everything, because by the final years that problem was sorted, and the 2007 is widely seen as the most reliable of the run. with failure rates no worse than a Camry of the same age. The market still ignores it, because the whole generation got tarred by those early horror stories, so prices stay cheap even on the cars that were already fixed. That is the gap you quietly exploit while everybody else runs scared. The safest pick of all is the K24 four-cylinder, a motor that is basically unkillable and routinely outlives the body around it, while the V6 in a 2007 is perfectly fine when the records are clean. Either way, these Accords roll past 200,000 and even 300,000 miles with nothing exotic, just oil and patience. On price, a solid 2007 lands around $4,000 to $8,000. When new, they ran about $19,000 to $30,000, depending on the trim. Put it next to a same-year Camry, and the Toyota usually asks higher money for the same job, purely because the badge still commands a little extra at trade-in. For the checks, get it fully warm and feel the shifts, because any flare or hard slam means a transmission that was neglected or never serviced. If you can, lean toward the four-cylinder over the early V6, because that engine sidesteps the whole drama entirely. Listen at idle and watch for the engine rocking too hard, since worn motor mounts are common and they are a cheap repair. Then demand service records, because paper is the difference between a quiet bargain and an expensive headache. Pick this Accord when you want the version of a legend with the bugs already worked out for the price of a plain old beater. The next car comes with one strict year rule, because a single model year switched to a part that owners quickly learned to dread. Number 4. Subaru Forester. There is a specific model year here that matters far more than the badge on the tailgate, and getting it right saves you real grief down the road. For 2014, Subaru redesigned the Forester and made the CVT the only automatic you could buy, which means the 2013 is the last one with a normal, conventional gearbox. That single fact is the whole reason it earns a spot on this list. The 2013 pairs the newer, chain-driven FB25 Boxer engine, which arrived in 2011 and calmed down the old head gasket reputation that haunted the earlier belt-driven motors, with either a simple 4-speed automatic or a real 5-speed manual. No rubber band CVT to worry about 15 years from now, just a torque converter or a clutch that mechanics have understood forever and can fix anywhere. Bolt that to Subaru's full-time symmetrical all-wheel drive, add 8.5 inches of ground clearance, and you get a genuine snow and trail machine that stays simple to keep alive. I have a neighbor who drives one through brutal mountain winters, and it climbs his ice-covered road like it is nothing, year after year. The market skips it because the looks are plain. That 4-speed automatic reads as old next to newer rivals, and shoppers chase the fresher body without ever thinking about what is underneath. On price, clean 2013 land around $7,000 to $11,000. When new, the sticker ran about $21,000 to $28,000. Compare it to a newer CVT Forester that costs extra and quietly worries its owner every single time the transmission whines on a long hill. For the inspection, pull the dipstick and check the oil level and color, because these Boxer engines can sip oil and a low level quietly creates damage. Look along the engine for any head gasket seepage or oily residue, because that is still the classic Subaru spot to watch even on the newer motor. Grab each front wheel and check for bearing play or clicking CV joints, since both are common on an all-wheel drive car this age. Then make sure all 4 tires match in brand and tread depth, because mismatched rubber can actually hurt the all-wheel drive system. Choose this Forester when you want trusted Subaru grip in the snow without a CVT hanging over your head for the next decade. If straight, no-nonsense buying help like this is worth your time, go ahead and subscribe. We line up the smartest used picks so you spend smarter and dodge the repairs that drain a budget. Number 3. Hyundai Genesis Coupe. Imagine a rear-wheel drive coupe with a real stick shift and a strong V6, sold brand new, that almost nobody noticed on the way to the Mustang aisle. 2016 was the last year for the Genesis Coupe, and after that, Hyundai turned Genesis into a separate luxury brand of sedans and SUVs, and never built this coupe again. The final year is the purest one of the bunch, because Hyundai dropped the 4-cylinder turbo and sold it only as the 3.8-liter V6 with a 6-speed manual standard. That makes it the most focused, most refined version of the entire run, with no weak turbo motor left to muddy your choice. The drivetrain is the kind of thing that ages beautifully. A naturally aspirated 3.8 V6 called the Lambda, with no turbo to cook itself, rear-wheel drive for real balance, and a clutch you can actually rebuild on the cheap, simple muscle that just keeps pulling. With nearly 350 horsepower and a stick, it is the kind of car people will wish they had bought once they are all gone for good. I have watched clean ones sell in a single afternoon to guys who finally figured out what they are, and that quiet demand is only going to grow. The market overlooked it from day one, because a sporty rear-drive coupe wearing a Hyundai badge confused people. It lived in the shadow of the Mustang and the Camaro, and even owners freely admit it got unfairly ignored. That neglect is your discount, plain and simple. On price, higher mileage 3.8 manuals land around $8,000 to $12,000, while pristine low-mile ones climb a little above that for the collectors who already see it coming. When new, these stickered about $27,000 to $35,000. Compare it to the same money Mustang or Camaro, and you usually get fewer miles in the Genesis, because demand stayed soft and the badge kept the prices down. For the checks on a manual car, feel the clutch take up carefully, because a slipping clutch is a real repair you price right into the offer. Watch for signs it was beaten on, since these are sporty cars that young drivers sometimes abuse. So look for sloppy mods, cheap tires, and bald rear rubber. These cars also chew through rear tires when the alignment drifts, so read the tread closely for any uneven wear that signals a deeper problem. Bounce each corner and listen for worn shocks and links, because a hard-driven example can be tired, and that becomes your bargain. Then confirm the parking brake light recall was completed, because that one is a quick but important repair. Pick this Genesis coupe when you want one of the last naturally aspirated, stick-shift coupes, built before nearly everything turned into a turbo-automatic appliance. The next one is a tough, boxy SUV that a whole lot of fans still beg the company to bring back. Number 2. Nissan Xterra. Every so often, a company kills off a vehicle, and the fans never quite forgive them for it. And this rugged SUV is the perfect example of that kind of grudge. 2015 was the final year for the Xterra, and Nissan did not replace it with anything. They simply walked away rather than spend the money on new safety and emissions upgrades for a low-volume truck. People have been begging for its return ever since, and you only have to read 5 minutes of the owner forums to feel how deep that loyalty runs. The final year is the most sordid one, with Bluetooth across the lineup and all the little bugs of a famously tough, truck-based SUV finally ironed out over a long production run. What makes it last is the hardware, because the VQ40, the 4-liter V6, is close to indestructible and was used all over Nissan's lineup for years, and it sits in a real body-on-frame chassis with true 4-wheel drive, and you could even order it with a manual. That is genuine Jeep Wrangler capability without the Wrangler price, and without the bouncy, harsh ride that usually comes attached to it. The clever bed and cargo tracks, the available locking rear differential, and that tall, boxy shape make it a real tool. Not a soft mall crawler pretending to be tough. I knew a guy who drove his first Xterra to 230,000 miles, then went out and bought another one the very day he learned they had stopped making them. The market ignores it for shallow reasons, because it drinks fuel, it rides rough on the highway, and people wrongly assume a discontinued truck is a parts nightmare, when the opposite is true, since it shares so much with the Frontier pickup. Walk into any parts store, and the common pieces are right there on the shelf. On price, a base or higher mileage one lands around $7,500 to $12,000, while the loaded Pro 4X examples climb a bit above the budget for the diehards. When new, these ran about $24,000 to $33,000. Compare it to a Toyota 4Runner doing the same rough country job, and the Nissan saves you thousands right out the door for hardware that is nearly as tough. For the inspection, get underneath and check the frame and the cross members for rust, because the structure is everything on a truck built like this one. The nasty radiator to transmission issue belonged to the first generation, not this one, but pop the cap and check the cooler and the fluid anyway for total peace of mind. Grab the front wheels and feel for worn bearings and ball joints, since heavy four-wheel drive rigs chew those parts faster than soft crossovers. Then run it through four-wheel drive, high and low, and confirm clean engagement with no clunks, binding, or warning lights on the dash. Take this Xterra when you want a simple, go anywhere, rig that the whole market quit building, and you plan to keep it for the long haul. If you want more straight talk that keeps your money safe, subscribe and ride along. We dig out the durable, forgotten picks so your next buy is a smart move, not a regret. Number 1. Acura TL. And now, the car that proves my entire point about final years, the one that is secretly the smartest buy on this whole list. The Acura TL ended production in 2014, and Acura replaced it with the TLX, a car that most reviewers and enthusiasts quietly agree is blander and less special to drive. In other words, they took a real driver's sedan and traded it for something softer, which is the exact opposite of progress. That is precisely why the 2014 TL is such a treasure, because it is the final and most refined version of a genuinely great car. Here is the twist that keeps the prices down, because the early models of this generation wore a polarizing, beak-shaped front end that people mocked relentlessly. And that ugly duckling reputation dragged the whole run's image and resale lower than it ever deserved. The facelift from 2012 through 2014 cleaned up that nose, and 2014 is the best-looking, most sordid year of them all. Yet the market still forgets the TL even existed the moment the TLX took its place in the lineup. Under the hood, you get the heart of the matter, either a 3.5 or a 3.7-liter J-Series V6, and that 3.7 with Acura's super-handling all-wheel drive is the gem of the entire bunch. These engines are smooth, strong, and they routinely run past 200,000 miles, which means you are buying real near luxury with Honda-style durability baked right in from the factory. This is leather, quiet, and serious power for the price of a tired commuter economy car, and almost nobody realizes it. I have seen these cross-high mileage with the original engine and transmission still shifting like new, because the bones are that good. On price, a clean, higher mileage TL lands around $9,000 to $12,000, while the low mileage cream puffs creep a little above that. When new, this Acura stickered around $36,000 to $46,000, so the value drop is staggering in your favor. Now set it beside a same-era German luxury sedan, the kind people love to brag about at the office, and that badge will cost you 2 or 3 times the money to keep on the road, while this Acura just quietly keeps going. That is the whole game in one sentence. For the inspection, get it fully warm and feel every shift, because the automatic should move clean with no flare or slam between gears. Look closely at the dashboard top for cracks, since some of these dashes split with age and harsh sun over the years. Figure out whether you have the front-wheel drive 3.5 or the all-wheel drive 3.7, because the super-handling all-wheel drive car is the one worth chasing. And as always, demand the service records, because a luxury car with a clean history is the one that stays cheap to own for the long haul. Choose this TL when you want the last and best real Acura sports sedan, true luxury that lasts, for the money most folks blow on a plain old grocery getter. That is the lesson of this entire video. The final year is almost always the best one, and the market hands it to you cheap because it already moved along to the next shiny thing. Buyer cheat sheet. Quick and practical, because a final year car only pays off when you stay sharp at the lot. The Mitsubishi Galant is the budget floor. The year is 2012. Avoid the rough early transmissions and tired electrical, around $3,000 to $6,000. The Suzuki Grand Vitara is the dead brand bargain. The year is 2013. Avoid any overheating history and a lazy cooling fan, around $5,000 to $9,000. The Ford Ranger is a simple truck. The year is 2011. Get the 4-liter V6 and avoid frame rust, around $6,000 to $12,000. The Honda Accord is the fixed legend. The year is 2007. Lean toward the 4-cylinder and verify the transmission, around $4,000 to $8,000. The Subaru Forester is the last year before the automatic moved fully to CVT in the redesigned model. The year is 2013. Avoid oil-burning examples and check the boxer for leaks, around $7,000 to $11,000. The Hyundai Genesis Coupe is the final year V6 manual in that model line. The year is 2016. Check the clutch and the recall, around $8,000 to $12,000. The Nissan Xterra is the rugged survivor. The year is 2015. Hunt hard for frame rust, around $7,500 to $12,000. The Acura TL is the luxury steel. The year is 2014. Check the shifts and the dashboard cracks, around $9,000 to $12,000. The rules stay simple. A final year usually means the bugs are gone, so do not fear it. Buy the simplest engine, demand records, scan the underbody for rust, and never pay extra for a dead badge. Cold start, warm shifts, one brake pulse, straight tracking, a quick leak scan, and a long look underneath. That 10-minute routine saves you thousands. Click the next video on your screen, where we reveal the best years and the exact checks that stop final year regrets before they ever cost you a dime. Subscribe for honest picks and smarter buying.